The sound of metal hitting something hard made Clyde stop. The ground trembled beneath him, sending a jolt up his arm. He leaned against the wooden fence post he was digging, squinting at the earth that had given way to a strange, solid vibration. Concrete? It didn't make sense. Just as he was about to brush it aside, curiosity took hold of him. The summer sun was beginning to dip low over Casper, Wyoming, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Clyde wiped the sweat from his brow, the warmth of the day settling into a comfortable evening. He had spent most of his waking hours on this ranch, the familiar landscape etched into his memory like the lines on his weathered hands. The gentle bleats of sheep, mixed with the rustle of the wind through the tall grass, formed the soundtrack of his life, a rhythm he cherished. But today, that rhythm was interrupted by an unfamiliar sound, a call to explore the ground beneath him. Kneeling down, he dug deeper with his shovel, the metal scraping against the earth until he uncovered the edges of a box, weathered yet sturdy. It was an oddity in this part of the ranch, something that didn't belong. A time capsule, perhaps. His heart raced with excitement and trepidation alike. What could it contain? Memories? Secrets? As he pulled the box free, dirt falling away like forgotten moments, memories surfaced with it. The dusty roads of his youth, the laughter of children echoing through the air, moments he had long set aside in favor of solitary labor. He brushed the dirt from the lid and lifted it open, revealing a collection of envelopes, faded but intact. Each one was labeled with precision: seeds, map, and letter. A thrill shot through him as he lifted the letter, the words inside igniting something buried deep within him. "Dear future owner," it began, the handwriting looping energetically, a testament to youth and dreams. "Plant one of our seeds when you want to remember that nothing is created in isolation." The words resonated, each one a reminder of the connections he had neglected over the years. The letter was signed with a name he couldn't quite recognize, but atop the page was a drawing of a sheep, marked with the same distinctive patches as those grazing in his fields. Clyde's hands trembled slightly as he held the letter, a sense of vulnerability washing over him. Here he was, a man who had prided himself on doing everything alone, finding an echo of something he had long ignored. In this quiet moment, he felt the weight of truth, the importance of connection, of community, and of nurturing the roots he had allowed to wither. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over his surroundings, and Clyde was left with a choice. He could keep this box buried in his mind and heart, a relic of the past, or he could embrace its message, planting those seeds not just in the soil, but in the lives of those around him. The ground beneath him felt alive, and as the shadows lengthened, he made a decision that would change everything. Clyde stood up, brushing the dirt from his hands and looking out over the expanse of his ranch. The sun was beginning to sink low over Casper, Wyoming, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He had spent most of his waking hours on this land, the familiar landscape etched into his memory like the lines on his weathered hands. The gentle bleats of sheep mixed with the rustle of the wind through the tall grass formed the soundtrack of his life, a rhythm he cherished. But today, that rhythm was interrupted by an unfamiliar sound, a call to explore the ground beneath him. Kneeling down, he dug deeper with his shovel, the metal scraping against the earth until he uncovered the edges of a box, weathered yet sturdy. It was an oddity in this part of the ranch, something that didn't belong. A time capsule, perhaps? His heart raced with excitement and trepidation alike. What could it contain? Memories? Secrets? As he pulled the box free, dirt falling away like forgotten moments, memories surged forth. The dusty roads of his youth, the laughter of children echoing through the air, moments he had long set aside in favor of solitary labor. He brushed the dirt from the lid and lifted it open, revealing a collection of envelopes, faded but intact. Each one was labeled with precision: seeds, map, and letter. A thrill shot through him as he lifted the letter, the words inside igniting something buried deep within him. "Dear future owner," it began, the handwriting looping energetically, a testament to youth and dreams. Plant one of our seeds when you want to remember that nothing is created in isolation. The words resonated, each one a reminder of the connections he had neglected over the years. The letter was signed with a name he couldn't quite recognize, but atop the page was a drawing of a sheep, marked with the same distinctive patches as those grazing in his fields. Clyde's hands trembled slightly as he held the letter, a sense of vulnerability washing over him. Here he was, a man who had prided himself on doing everything alone, suddenly confronted with the profound truth of connection and community. As he sifted through the contents, Clyde found himself at a crossroads. The seeds were small, unassuming, yet they held promise. He hadn't thought much about planting beyond his usual crops, but now he wondered, what would it mean to plant these seeds not just in the soil, but in the lives of those around him? The letter's message resonated in his mind, a gentle nudge toward re-engagement with the community that had faded into the background of his life. With the fading light, he made his way back to the house, the box clutched tightly in his hands. The old farmhouse, with its peeling paint and creaky floorboards, had seen many seasons pass, just as he had. Each item in the home held a memory: the worn-out armchair in the living room, the kitchen table where countless meals had been shared, the photographs that lined the walls capturing moments of joy and loss. Dinner was a quiet affair, the clinking of utensils the only sound breaking the silence. Clyde sat at the table staring at his plate, thinking not of food but of the letter and the promise it held. He recalled the faces of neighbors long gone from his life, friends he had once laughed with, shared stories with, and who now felt more like shadows of the past. Each recollection was a reminder of the community he had distanced himself from, a community that was starting to feel like a ghost. As he chewed slowly, he considered the seeds again, imagining each one sprouting into something vibrant. He had always believed that hard work alone could sustain him, but perhaps there was more to life than solitary labor. Perhaps it was time to reach out, to mend the connections he had let fray over the years. After dinner, Clyde found himself sitting on the porch, watching the last vestiges of sunlight fade from the sky. The cool night air wrapped around him like a comforting blanket, but it did little to ease the tugging feeling in his chest. He sighed, glancing at the old radio perched on the table beside him. It had been years since he'd turned it on, preferring the stillness of silence over the chatter of the outside world. But tonight felt different. With a flick of the dial, the crackling static filled the air before settling into a familiar country tune. The warmth of the music wrapped around him, and for the first time in a long while he felt a flicker of nostalgia. Memories surged forth. Sunday afternoon spent listening to the radio with his late wife, the two of them laughing and singing along to their favorite songs. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the music wash over him, filling the empty spaces within. As the song played, he thought of the people who once surrounded him. The neighbors who had shared meals, celebrated holidays, and lent a helping hand during tough times. Where had they all gone? He had retreated into his own world so deeply that he had lost touch with the very fabric of his community. The next day, motivated by a newfound resolve, Clyde awoke early, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. He gathered the contents of the box and placed them in a canvas bag, determined to share the letter and the seeds. He wasn't sure how the neighbors would respond, but he understood that sometimes the most significant risks lead to the greatest rewards. As he drove through the winding roads of his community, the landscape unfurling before him like a patchwork quilt, he noticed how the once bustling farms had changed. Some houses were abandoned, their gardens overgrown, and for a moment, sadness washed over him. It was a stark reminder of what happens when people stop tending to their roots. His first stop was at the Johnsons, a family he had known since childhood. Clyde parked his truck in the driveway, the engine rumbling to a stop. He hesitated outside their door, the weight of his bag heavy with possibility. Would they welcome him back? Would they be interested in what he had to share? Summoning his courage, he knocked. The door opened, revealing Mrs. Johnson, her face lighting up with surprise. "Clyde, it's been ages." "Hey there, Mrs. Johnson," he replied, a smile creeping onto his face. "I found something I wanted to share with you." As they moved to the porch, Clyde explained about the box and the letter, showing her the seeds. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, and she listened intently, nodding along as he spoke. When he finished, she leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "You know, Clyde, we've missed you. It's never too late to reconnect. We've always believed in community here, and it sounds like you found some inspiration." Clyde felt a swell of hope. Maybe this was how it started, one small step toward rebuilding something worthwhile. They spent the afternoon reminiscing and laughing, and for the first time in years he felt a connection forming anew. Over the next few days he visited several families, sharing the letter and the seeds. Each encounter deepened his resolve and filled the gaps he had allowed to grow in his life. The conversations flowed effortlessly, stories shared over coffee, laughter echoing through the rooms, and plans made for future gatherings. One evening, Clyde stood at the fence line of his ranch looking out over the land. The sun was setting again, the sky ablaze with colors that seemed to reflect the vibrant connections he was beginning to forge. He had invited his neighbors to a small gathering, a chance to plant the seeds together and share stories about their lives and dreams. As the day of the gathering approached, Clyde felt a flutter of nervousness combined with excitement. He prepared his home, setting out extra chairs and cleaning up the yard. He wanted it to be a place where everyone felt welcome, just as it had been years ago. When the day finally arrived, the sun shone brightly, and laughter filled the air as neighbors began to arrive, each one bringing a dish to share. Clyde welcomed them with open arms, his heart swelling with gratitude. As they gathered around him, he shared the story of the box and the seeds, and together, they planted them along the new fence line. Each seed was a promise to nurture not only the plants but the relationships that had once flourished in their community. With each seed they placed in the earth, Clyde felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They weren't just planting seeds. They were planting the very essence of connection, hope, and togetherness. Each person shared their dreams, their laughter, and the stories that had shaped their lives, creating a tapestry of memories woven together by their shared experiences. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Clyde looked around at the faces filled with joy. He realized that the box he had uncovered was more than just a collection of old things. It had become a bridge to the past, to community, and to hope for the future. He understood then that the true legacy of the ranch would be the bonds he formed along the way. It wasn't merely about the physical land he owned, but about the connections that nurtured his soul. And as night fell, the stars began to twinkle overhead, reflecting the warmth of the connections ignited that day. Clyde felt a new beginning unfurl within him. He knew the earth held secrets, waiting for someone brave enough to dig deep enough to find them. And as he took a deep breath, the air felt different, filled with promise, connection, and the sweet scent of possibility. As weeks passed, Clyde found himself tending not only to the newly planted seeds but also to new friendships. The gatherings became a regular occurrence, a ritual that brought life back to the ranch and warmth back into his heart. Neighbors began to share stories, traditions, and recipes, weaving a new tapestry of community that had once seemed lost. One evening, as they gathered for a potluck, Clyde noticed a change in the atmosphere. Laughter rang out more freely, the conversations flowed with ease, and there was a sense of belonging that filled the space. He watched as families interacted, children played together, and the older folks shared stories of the past, laughter mingling with nostalgia. While everyone was busy enjoying the night, Clyde took a moment to step outside, leaning against the porch railing. The stars scattered across the night sky, twinkling like tiny beacons of hope. He took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh scent of earth and grass. It was a moment of gratitude, a realization that he had taken the first step toward reclaiming the community he had once neglected. The letter and the seeds had transformed into more than just objects. They had sparked a movement, a reminder of the importance of nurturing relationships. He thought about the people who had come and gone over the years, the ones who had shaped his life in ways he hadn't fully appreciated until now. Clyde could feel the fabric of the community strengthening, thread by thread, as he embraced this new path. As autumn began to paint the trees with warm colors, he started to see the first signs of life in the patches where they had planted the seeds. A few shoots peeked through the soil, green and fragile, but full of potential. It reminded him of the connections he was cultivating, some delicate but promising, and he felt a sense of responsibility to nurture them. One day, as Clyde worked in his garden, he was surprised to see a familiar face approaching. It was young Tommy, the son of the Johnsons. He was holding a small basket filled with wildflowers, a shy smile plastered on his face. "Mr. Clyde, I wanted to bring you these," he exclaimed, presenting the flowers as though they were treasures. Clyde knelt down, accepting the gift with a smile. "Thank you, Tommy. They're beautiful. Did you pick them from the field?" "Yeah, my mom said you like flowers," Tommy said, his eyes bright with excitement. "And I wanted to say thank you for inviting us that day. Everyone had so much fun." Clyde's heart swelled. "It was a pleasure having you all here. You know, you're welcome to come by anytime. I could use a hand with the garden." Tommy's eyes widened at the offer, and he nodded eagerly. "Really? I'd love to help." As they walked together to the garden, Clyde felt a warmth spreading through him. This was what it meant to cultivate relationships, to share moments, to learn from one another, and to connect in meaningful ways. He showed Tommy where the shoots had begun to grow, and together, they discussed how to care for them. In the coming weeks, Clyde found himself surrounded by families, neighbors eager to lend a hand and share their knowledge. They brought seeds from their own gardens, each one carrying a story, a history unique to their family. Clyde learned about different planting techniques, soil types, and the importance of patience and care in nurturing growth, in both plants and relationships. As winter approached, the work in the garden slowed, but the connections remained vibrant. Clyde and his neighbors began to gather for evenings filled with storytelling, card games, and laughter around the fireplace. The warmth of community filled the once silent farmhouse, echoing with life and joy. One chilly evening as they sat around the fire, Clyde reflected on the journey he had taken. He felt a sense of fulfillment that had eluded him for far too long. The seeds he had planted, both in the earth and in the hearts of those around him, were beginning to take root, establishing bonds that would sustain him and his community for years to come. "Clyde," Mrs. Johnson said one night, her voice breaking through the cozy chatter, "you've brought us together again. It feels like we've found our way back home." Clyde smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. "It's all of you who've made this place feel alive again. I just opened the door." As the fire crackled and the laughter continued, Clyde realized that the true essence of community was about sharing burdens and joys alike, about standing together through the seasons of life. With winter approaching, he knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in years he felt prepared. He had friends beside him, ready to face whatever came their way. As snow began to blanket the landscape, Clyde felt a sense of peace settle over him. He understood that life was a cycle, with each season bringing its own opportunities for growth and connection. The seeds he had planted were merely the beginning of a much larger journey, a journey that would take him beyond the boundaries of his ranch and into the hearts of the people around him. And so, with each passing day, he tended not only to the garden, but to the friendships that had blossomed in the warmth of shared experiences. The past had laid the foundation, but the future was being built with the strength of community, togetherness, and the promise of new beginnings. As winter faded away, spring breathed new life into Casper, Wyoming. The snow melted, revealing patches of earth eager for the warmth of the sun. Clyde stood by his window, taking in the sight of his ranch, now vibrant with possibility. The garden they had planted together with their neighbors was a symbol of their shared journey, a testament to the connections they had forged. The once isolated man now felt the pulse of community in every corner of his property. The first blooms of daffodils and crocuses peeked through the thawing ground, painting the landscape in bright yellows and purples. Clyde had spent countless hours tilling the soil. Each seed planted a promise of new beginnings, not just for the plants but for the relationships that had taken root in his heart. He felt an energy coursing through him, a mix of excitement and hope as he prepared for a new season. As the weekends rolled around, Clyde hosted gatherings in the garden, inviting families to come together and share not just food, but their lives. They organized potlucks, where each family brought dishes that told stories of their heritage: spicy tamales from the Martinez family, classic apple pie from the Johnsons, and hearty stews from the Hawkins. The air filled with laughter and the aroma of good food, creating a sanctuary of warmth and companionship. One sunny Saturday, as children played tag around the garden, Clyde sat with a few neighbors at a picnic table, discussing plans to expand the community garden. "We could plant a butterfly garden too," suggested Sarah Hawkins, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It could attract pollinators and teach the kids about the environment." Clyde nodded, excited about the idea. "And we can include a section for herbs. It would be wonderful to grow fresh basil and rosemary. We could even have a little herb festival later in the summer." The group buzzed with ideas, each person contributing their thoughts. Clyde felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This was what he had longed for, a community that collaborated, celebrated, and grew together. The garden was not merely a patch of land, it was a canvas for their collective dreams and aspirations. As the days grew warmer, the garden flourished. Clyde and his neighbors worked diligently, planting rows of vegetables, flowers, and herbs. The children became junior gardeners, eager to learn about the plants they tended. They laughed as they planted pumpkin seeds, dreaming of the grand pumpkins they could carve for Halloween. One evening, after a long day of gardening, Clyde sat on his porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. He reflected on how far he had come since that day he unearthed the box. The seeds had not only sprouted in the soil, but had also blossomed into friendships, shared laughter, and a renewed sense of purpose. Just then, he heard a familiar voice call out. It was Mrs. Johnson walking over with a plate of cookies. "Thought you might like a snack after all that hard work," she said with a warm smile. Clyde accepted the plate gratefully. "Thank you, Mrs. Johnson." These looked delicious. As they sat together, he shared his reflections on the garden and the joy it had brought to the community. "I never imagined this place could be so full of life," he admitted. "It's as if we're weaving together a new tapestry of community." Mrs. Johnson nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You've done something remarkable, Clyde. You've reminded us all of the importance of connection. It's easy to forget in our busy lives. You've brought us back together." Their conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and shared memories. Clyde felt a warmth in his heart, a sense of belonging that he hadn't realized he was missing. It was in moments like these that he understood the depth of community. It was about the shared experiences, the collective support, and the love that flourished in the relationships they nurtured. As spring rolled into summer, the garden became a vibrant hub of activity. The air buzzed with excitement as crops began to yield their bounty. Clyde organized a farmer's market at the edge of the garden, inviting local residents to showcase their produce. It became a weekly event, drawing people from the surrounding areas, and soon the garden was filled with colors, aromas, and the lively chatter of neighbors reconnecting. The farmer's market was a hit. Clyde marveled at the variety of goods being exchanged. Fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, handmade jams, and beautifully crafted goods from local artisans filled the tables. The community came alive, and Clyde felt a sense of pride swell within him. He had watched as the garden transformed from a barren patch of land into a thriving ecosystem of life, love, and laughter. One Saturday morning, as Clyde set up his table at the market, he was approached by a young woman named Leah. She was new to the area, having moved to Casper to start a flower shop. "I've heard so much about this garden," she said, her eyes sparkling. I'd love to collaborate and create some flower arrangements for the market. Clyde beamed at the idea. That would be wonderful. We could have a special section for flowers too. It would really bring the market to life. Leah smiled, her enthusiasm contagious. I'll bring some of my arrangements next week. I can even do a flower workshop if people are interested. Excitement rippled through the crowd as they overheard. Clyde felt a rush of energy as he envisioned the market growing even more vibrant, bringing in new faces and expanding the sense of community. Over the next few weeks, Leah became a regular fixture at the market, her flower arrangements a highlight among the produce. People flocked to her booth, captivated by the colorful blooms and her warm personality. Clyde watched as she engaged with customers, her passion infectious. She quickly became part of the community, fitting seamlessly into the fabric they had woven together. As summer progressed, the garden yielded more than vegetables and flowers. It birthed friendships and strengthened bonds. Clyde found himself spending more time with Leah, their shared interest blossoming into a beautiful friendship. They would often work in the garden together, exchanging stories and laughter as they tended to the plants. Clyde opened up about his past, sharing the loneliness he had felt for so long. Leah, in turn, shared her journey of moving to a new place and the challenges that came with it. They both understood the importance of connection, and their conversations deepened their friendship. One evening, after a long day of planting, they sat beneath the stars, enjoying the coolness of the night air. Clyde turned to Leah, a smile on his face. I never thought I'd find someone who understands the importance of community as much as I do. Leah met his gaze, her expression warm. It's amazing how a simple garden can change everything, isn't it? It's not just about the plants, it's about the people who come together to nurture them. Clyde nodded, his heart swelling with appreciation. You've brought a new energy to this place, Leah. This garden feels alive because of all of us, but I can see how your spirit has infused it with even more life. Their connection deepened, and as the summer days grew longer, Clyde found himself looking forward to their time together. They began to share more moments outside of the garden, attending local events, exploring nearby hiking trails, and enjoying the beauty of the Wyoming landscape. But as with all seasons, change was on the horizon. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Leah shared news that sent a ripple of uncertainty through Clyde. I've been offered a position at a flower shop in Denver. It's a great opportunity, and I'm really tempted to take it. Clyde felt a lump in his throat. That's amazing, Leah. I'm so happy for you, but I'll miss you. You've become such an important part of this place. I'll miss you too, Clyde, she said softly, her eyes shining with emotion. This community has become home for me. I'm torn. I want to grow my career, but I don't want to leave this behind. I understand, Clyde replied, his heart heavy. You deserve to follow your dreams, but I hope you know that this community will always be here for you. We've built something special together. Leah smiled, warmth spreading across her face. I'm not gone yet. I want to make the most of every moment while I'm still here. Over the next few weeks, Leah immersed herself in the garden, pouring her heart into every arrangement and flower workshop. The community rallied around her, celebrating her contributions and supporting her decision, no matter how difficult it was. Clyde felt a bittersweet mix of pride and sadness as he watched her blossom, knowing that she was destined for great things. The farmers' market continued to thrive, and the garden flourished under the care of the community. But as the end of summer approached, the inevitable farewell loomed. Leah had set a date for her departure, and the community organized a farewell party to celebrate her contributions. On the day of the party, the garden was adorned with decorations, vibrant flowers filling the air with their sweet scent. Clyde helped set up tables, a bittersweet feeling settling in his chest. He wanted to celebrate Leah's achievements, but the thought of her leaving felt heavy. As the sun began to set, neighbors gathered, bringing food and stories to share. Laughter echoed through the garden, but Clyde felt a sense of unease. He glanced at Leah, who was chatting with others, her spirit shining brightly. When it came time for speeches, Clyde's heart raced. He stepped up to the makeshift podium, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes upon him. "I want to thank Leah for everything she has brought to our community," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Your passion for flowers has brought life to this garden and our market. You've reminded us all of the beauty of connection and the importance of nurturing not just plants, but relationships." The crowd erupted in applause, and Clyde felt a swell of pride in the warmth of their support. "While it's hard to say goodbye, I know that you're destined for great things. Remember, you'll always have a home here." Leah stepped forward, her eyes misty with emotion. "Thank you, Clyde. This community has changed my life in ways I never expected. I will carry this garden and all of you in my heart. I hope to return someday and see how you've all grown." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the garden, Clyde felt a sense of closure. He had learned that change was a part of life, just as the seasons shifted and transformed. Embracing it meant celebrating the connections they had built, even if it meant letting go. As the evening wore on, Clyde watched Leah interact with the community, her laughter ringing through the air. He realized that she had become a part of his journey, a vital thread in the tapestry of his life. And while the future was uncertain, he felt a sense of hope and anticipation for what lay ahead. As the night wrapped up, Clyde found himself standing beside Leah, the weight of the moment settling between them. "I'll miss you, you know," he admitted, his voice low. "I'll miss you too, Clyde," she said softly, her gaze steady. "But I promise I'll return and visit. You've created something beautiful here, and I want to see it grow." They exchanged a knowing smile, their connection stronger than ever. In that moment, Clyde understood that while people might come and go, the bonds they created would last a lifetime. As Leah prepared to leave, Clyde felt a bittersweet resolve wash over him. He had embraced change, celebrated connection, and forged a community that would continue to thrive, even in her absence. Days turned into weeks after Leah left, and the garden continued to flourish. Clyde found solace in the routine of tending to the plants and nurturing the friendships he had formed. The community rallied together, supporting one another through the changes and embracing the new season ahead. As summer transitioned into fall, the garden boasted a bounty of produce, and Clyde began to plan a harvest festival to celebrate their achievements. He envisioned a day filled with laughter, good food, and the warmth of community, a way to honor their hard work and the spirit of connection that had blossomed. As he prepared for the festival, Clyde felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wanted to showcase the garden's success, to invite everyone to share in the celebration of what they had built together. He reached out to neighbors, gathering ideas and suggestions for the festival, eager to create an event that reflected the spirit of their community. Finally, the day of the harvest festival arrived, and Clyde stood at the entrance of the garden, his heart racing with excitement. The air was filled with the scent of freshly baked pies, the sound of laughter echoing through the rows of vegetables and flowers. Families gathered, bringing their culinary creations to share, and Clyde felt a sense of pride swell within him. As the festival unfolded, Clyde watched as neighbors engaged in games, shared stories, and created memories together. The children ran through the garden, their laughter filling the air, while adults exchanged recipes and gardening tips. Clyde felt a warmth in his heart, knowing that the garden had become a symbol of connection, a space where relationships blossomed. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the festivities, Clyde gathered everyone together for a moment of reflection. "I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This garden has become a home for all of us, a place where we can grow together. We've faced challenges, but we've also celebrated triumphs, and it's all because of the bonds we've formed." The crowd erupted in applause, and Clyde felt a rush of gratitude. He understood that the garden was a living testament to the power of community, a reminder that they were stronger together. As the festival continued, Clyde glanced at the faces around him, neighbors who had become friends, families who had come together to support one another, and the children who represented the future of their community. He felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him, a realization that he had found his place in the world. Later that evening, as the festivities drew to a close, Clyde stood beside the garden, watching the last remnants of sunlight fade into the horizon. He took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. The seeds he had planted, both in the earth and in the hearts of those around him, had flourished into something beautiful. As he looked out over the garden, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had discovered the beauty of connection, the power of community, and the joy of nurturing relationships. And while change was inevitable, he knew that the garden would continue to thrive, just as their friendships would. In that moment, as the stars began to twinkle overhead, Clyde took a deep breath, feeling a newfound sense of purpose and belonging. He was no longer a solitary figure. He had become an integral part of a vibrant community, woven together by the bonds of shared experiences and the promise of a bright future. As the fall colors began to paint the landscape, Clyde felt a bittersweet sense of nostalgia settle over him. The Harvest Festival had been a resounding success, but the warmth of summer was giving way to the chill of winter. The garden had flourished, and the bonds of friendship had deepened, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that change was looming once again. In the weeks following the festival, the community settled into a comfortable routine. Clyde found solace in the rhythm of tending to the garden, harvesting the last of the vegetables, and preparing the soil for winter. He shared stories and laughter with his neighbors during their weekly gatherings, but a subtle shift hung in the air. The days were getting shorter, and the nights were growing colder. One crisp morning, as he walked through the garden, Clyde noticed something unusual. The shoots they had planted together had grown sturdy and healthy, a testament to their collective efforts. Yet, among the vibrant greens, he spotted something unexpected: a small, delicate flower blooming defiantly among the remnants of summer. Its petals were a deep purple, standing out against the fading backdrop of autumn. Clyde knelt down to examine the flower closely, marveling at its resilience. It felt like a symbol of hope, a reminder that even amidst change, beauty could thrive. As he sat there in silence, contemplating the flower's unexpected presence, he felt a surge of inspiration. He decided to invite the community to gather for one last celebration before the winter set in, a farewell to the garden that had brought them together. He envisioned a Garden of Gratitude event, where everyone could come together to share what they were thankful for, reflecting on the connections they had formed over the past year. Clyde quickly set to work, reaching out to neighbors and friends to spread the word. Over the next few days, excitement built as families began to gather supplies and plan their contributions. As the date approached, Clyde felt a sense of anticipation mixed with anxiety. He wanted this gathering to be special, a true reflection of the growth they had experienced as a community. On the day of the event, the sky was a brilliant blue, the sun shining down on the garden. Clyde arrived early, setting up tables adorned with autumn leaves and flowers. He arranged colorful blankets on the grass, creating a cozy atmosphere for everyone to share their stories and gratitude. As the guests began to arrive, Clyde welcomed them with open arms. The garden was filled with the sound of laughter and chatter, children running around and playing tag among the rows of vegetables. Families set out their contributions. A delicious spread of pies, breads, and homemade preserves filled the tables. Clyde stood at the center of the garden, watching his neighbors interact with one another, feeling the warmth of community enveloping him. As they gathered for the opening circle, he felt a twinge of nervousness, but he took a deep breath, recalling the flower that had inspired him. "Thank you all for coming today," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This garden has been a place of growth and connection for all of us. It has shown us the beauty of community, the power of relationships, and the importance of nurturing not just our plants but each other." He glanced around, seeing nods of agreement and smiles on familiar faces. "Today I invite each of you to share something you're grateful for. It can be about this garden, your family, or any moment that has brought you joy this year." One by one, neighbors began to share their stories. Mrs. Johnson spoke of the friendship she had rekindled and the joy of gathering together for potlucks and market days. The Martinez family expressed their gratitude for the support they received during the harsh winter. Even the children chimed in, sharing their excitement about planting seeds and watching them grow. As the stories unfolded, Clyde felt a wave of warmth wash over him. Each person's words added another layer to the fabric of their community, illustrating the power of connection and the importance of being there for one another. When it was Leah's turn, Clyde's heart fluttered. She had returned for the gathering, surprising him with her presence. "I'm so grateful for this community," she began, her voice steady, yet emotional. "When I first moved here, I felt like a stranger, but you all welcomed me with open arms. This garden has taught me the value of connection, and every moment spent here has filled my heart with joy." Tears glistened in her eyes, and Clyde felt a swell of appreciation for her words. In that moment, he recognized how far they had both come. Her journey and his journey were intertwined in the growth of the community. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the gathering, Clyde encouraged everyone to share a final thought of gratitude. He felt a sense of completeness settle over him, realizing that this gathering was more than just a farewell. It was a celebration of everything they had built together. After the sharing circle, they enjoyed the feast, laughter ringing through the garden as they savored each dish. The air was filled with the scents of cinnamon and baked goods, a reminder of the warmth that came from their shared experiences. As evening approached, Clyde gathered everyone around the small fire pit he had set up. He had prepared a few pumpkins to roast over the fire, and the children squealed with delight as they watched the flames flicker. "Before we conclude our gathering," Clyde said, his voice rising above the crackling fire, "I want to acknowledge that even as the seasons change, the connections we've formed here will continue to grow. We may face challenges in the winter ahead, but remember that we are never alone. We have each other, and together we can weather any storm." Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd, and the warmth of their camaraderie wrapped around Clyde like a comforting embrace. As the night deepened, they shared stories around the fire, reminiscing about the past and dreaming about the future. Laughter echoed in the cool air, and Clyde felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This garden, once a barren piece of land, had transformed into a sanctuary of love and connection. As the fire dwindled to glowing embers, Clyde glanced at Leah, who caught his gaze. She smiled softly, and in that moment, he knew that while their paths might diverge, the bond they had formed would remain strong. The gathering began to wind down, families saying their goodbyes, and Clyde felt a bittersweet sense of closure. He hugged each neighbor tightly, expressing his gratitude for their friendship. When Leah approached him, he took a moment to hold her gaze. "Thank you for coming back for this," he said, feeling a lump in his throat. "You've made an incredible impact on this community, and I'm grateful for every moment we shared." "I'll always come back, Clyde. This place will always be home to me," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. As the last guest departed, Clyde stood in the garden, the stars twinkling overhead. He looked out over the patches where they had planted seeds together, now a thriving testament to the bonds they had nurtured. With the warmth of the fire still lingering in the air, Clyde felt hopeful for the future. Yes, winter would come, and it would bring its challenges. But he was ready. He had discovered the value of connection, the strength of community, and the beauty of nurturing relationships. As he closed his eyes, taking a deep breath of the cool night air, he swore he could hear the whispers of the garden, the promise of new growth, and the echo of laughter lingering in the warmth of shared memories. He was no longer alone. He was a part of something far greater, woven into the lives of those around him. And as the seasons continued to turn, Clyde knew that no matter what lay ahead, the roots he had planted, both in the earth and in the hearts of his community, would continue to grow, intertwining their lives in a beautiful tapestry of connection and belonging. Winter settled over Casper with a gentle stillness, blanketing the landscape in a soft layer of snow. The garden, once bursting with vibrant life, now lay dormant under its white shroud, a reminder of the cycles of nature. For Clyde, the garden had become a metaphor for the community he had helped nurture. Even in stillness, it held the promise of renewal. As the days shortened and the chilling winds howled outside, Clyde found himself retreating into the warmth of his home, reflecting on the vibrant summer and the connections he had formed. The laughter of his neighbors and the warmth of shared meals lingered in his memory, a comforting reminder of the bonds that had blossomed in the garden. Yet as he watched the snowflakes fall, he felt a sense of isolation creeping back in, a reminder of the solitude he once knew. He kept busy with small projects around the house, repairing the fence, organizing tools, and even crafting a few birdhouses. The rhythmic sound of hammering echoed through the stillness, a distraction from the quiet loneliness that sometimes settled in. But it wasn't the same as the lively gatherings of the summer. Clyde missed the camaraderie of his neighbors, the shared laughter over pots of stew, and the collective effort of tending to the garden. One evening, as he sat by the fireplace, the warmth enveloping him, he heard a soft knock on the door. Surprised, he rose to answer it, revealing Mrs. Johnson standing there bundled in a thick coat and scarf, her cheeks rosy from the cold. "Clyde, dear, I thought I'd check in on you." "You've been awfully quiet lately," she said, stepping inside and shaking off the snow. Clyde smiled, his heart lifting at her presence. "I've just been keeping busy. It's different without everyone around." Mrs. Johnson nodded, her expression softening. "I know. Winter can feel long and lonely. But we mustn't forget to lift each other up even when the garden is asleep." Her words resonated with him. They settled in the living room, and Mrs. Johnson shared stories of her family and the holiday traditions they had begun to establish. Clyde found himself laughing again, the warmth of friendship rekindling the spirit of community within him. As the weeks passed, Clyde began to reach out to his neighbors, inviting them over for small gatherings, just a few people at a time to keep the warmth of their connections alive. They shared meals, exchanged stories, and even played board games, filling the chilly nights with laughter and camaraderie. One evening, while preparing a simple dinner, Clyde felt a surge of inspiration. He decided to organize a winter potluck, inviting everyone to bring their favorite holiday dish. The idea filled him with excitement. It would be a celebration of community, a way to remind each other that they were not alone during the cold winter months. He quickly set about preparing flyers and spreading the word. "Join us for a winter potluck," read the colorful paper, detailing the date and time, and encouraging everyone to bring their favorite dish to share. The response was heartwarming. Everyone was eager to participate. As the day of the potluck approached, Clyde felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. He wanted this gathering to be a reminder of their shared journey, a way to kindle the spirit of connection they had nurtured in the garden. On the day of the potluck, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the snow-covered landscape. Clyde prepared the dining area, setting up tables and arranging chairs, the scent of his homemade chicken soup wafting through the air. As the time drew near, he felt a flutter of excitement in his chest. Neighbors began to arrive, each carrying dishes adorned with colorful decorations. The aroma of baked goods, savory stews, and roasted vegetables filled the house, creating an inviting atmosphere. Laughter erupted as friends reunited, and Clyde felt the warmth of community envelop him once more. They gathered around the table, sharing stories of their winter experiences, how they had weathered the cold, the challenges they faced, and the small joys that kept their spirits up. Children played in the living room, their laughter mingling with the chatter of adults, creating a tapestry of warmth and connection. As the meal came to a close, Clyde stood up, feeling the energy of the room shift. "I want to thank each of you for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "This winter may feel long, but together, we have the power to brighten each other's lives. Just as our garden thrived in the summer, our connections can flourish even in the heart of winter." The room erupted in applause, and Clyde felt a surge of gratitude wash over him. In that moment, he understood that their community was like the garden. It required nurturing, care, and a willingness to connect. even when it felt easier to retreat into solitude. As the evening wore on, the conversations continued to flow, and the distant sound of laughter echoed through the house. Clyde felt a sense of belonging that he had longed for, an understanding that they were all in this together. When the evening drew to a close, neighbors began to say their goodbyes, promising to return soon. Clyde felt a bittersweet twinge in his heart. Winter still lay ahead, but he knew that they had rekindled the spirit of community within each other. In the days that followed, Clyde carried the warmth of the potluck with him. He noticed the small acts of kindness that began to emerge among his neighbors: shared meals, borrowed tools, and even a few spontaneous snowball fights between families. The garden may have been dormant, but the bonds they had forged continued to grow stronger. One crisp morning, as he made his way through the garden, he noticed the flower that had inspired him weeks ago. It stood resilient, its purple petals still vibrant against the winter backdrop. Clyde knelt down to admire it, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. Just like that flower, they had all weathered the cold together, nurturing their relationships amidst the challenges of the season. As the days grew warmer and the first signs of spring began to emerge, Clyde felt a renewed sense of hope. The community had rallied around one another, proving that even in the darkest months, connections could thrive. He looked forward to the return of the garden's vibrancy and the opportunities to further nurture their relationships. With spring approaching, Clyde and his neighbors began to discuss plans for the upcoming planting season. Excitement filled the air as they brainstormed ideas for expanding the garden, incorporating new plants and organizing community workshops to teach each other valuable gardening skills. Clyde envisioned a future where their community garden would not only provide food, but serve as a hub for learning, sharing, and growing together. As they gathered to plan, he felt the energy of collaboration and support enveloping them once more. In the heart of winter, amidst the snow and cold, Clyde had discovered a truth that resonated deeply within him. Community was not just about proximity. It was about connection, support, and the willingness to be there for one another, no matter the season. And as he looked forward to the coming spring, he knew that the bonds they had forged would continue to thrive, ready to blossom into something beautiful. As winter melted away, Clyde stood at the edge of the garden, surveying the landscape that had transformed over the past few months. Spring was palpable in the air, invigorating him with anticipation. The community had rallied together, determined to make this planting season the best yet. They organized workshops, each focused on different aspects of gardening, and Clyde felt inspired by the enthusiasm surrounding him. On a sunny Saturday morning, they gathered for the first workshop. Clyde prepared a small presentation on starting seeds indoors. As families arrived, he noticed the children eagerly watching, their eyes wide with curiosity. He encouraged them to get hands-on, guiding them as they filled pots with soil and planted seeds. Laughter filled the air as dirt flew and playful banter flowed, reminding Clyde of the joy that had blossomed in this very space. After the workshop, neighbors stayed to share their plans for the garden. Mrs. Johnson proposed planting a butterfly garden, while the Martinez family expressed interest in growing tomatoes and peppers. The excitement was contagious, and Clyde felt a deeper sense of belonging wash over him. Days turned into weeks as the community continued to meet for workshops and planting days. The garden transformed into a colorful tapestry, with each plot brimming with possibilities. Clyde relished the renewal of purpose as he collaborated with his neighbors, helping them plant and nurturing their dreams. Clyde organized a community planting day, inviting everyone to contribute to the garden. On that beautiful Saturday, families arrived with shovels and gloves, buzzing with energy. Together they planted rows of vegetables, flowers, and herbs, laughter mingling with the sound of soil being turned. After a long day, they gathered to celebrate their accomplishments. Clyde prepared a meal with last year's harvest, and they enjoyed the fruits of their labor as the sun set, casting a warm glow over the garden. "I want to thank each of you for being here today," Clyde said, feeling the room's energy shift. "This winter may feel long, but together, we have the power to brighten each other's lives. Just as our garden thrived in the summer, our connections can flourish even in the heart of winter. The room erupted in applause, and Clyde felt gratitude wash over him. Their community was like the garden. It required nurturing, care, and a willingness to connect, even when retreating into solitude felt easier. As the weeks rolled on, the garden flourished, bursting with life. Families began to harvest their first crops, sharing the bounty with one another. Neighbors brought their fresh produce to potluck dinners, exchanging recipes and laughter, deepening their bonds. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Clyde reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He recalled the lonely days, the moment he unearthed the box, and the friendships that had blossomed since then. It was as if the garden had become a living testament to the power of connection, a reminder that even in the coldest of winters, life could flourish. With Leah's return, Clyde felt excited for the future. They began to plan for the next phase of their journey, envisioning more educational workshops and inviting local schools to get involved. As they organized a garden festival to celebrate their achievements, Clyde felt the energy of collaboration and support blossoming once more. The festival day arrived and excitement filled the air. Families wandered through the garden, sampling fresh vegetables and engaging in activities designed to teach them about gardening. It was a beautiful culmination of their hard work and commitment to nurturing their community. Clyde stood before the gathered crowd, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. "Thank you all for coming to our garden festival," he began. "This garden represents our shared journey and the beauty that comes from nurturing relationships. Together, we have created something truly remarkable." As applause erupted, Clyde felt grateful for everyone who contributed to this moment. The garden had not only blossomed with flowers and vegetables, but had also grown into a living embodiment of their collective spirit. As the festivities continued, Clyde and Leah reflected on their shared journey. They acknowledged the challenges they had overcome and the friendships they had forged along the way, realizing that their efforts had created a strong foundation for the community. The celebration continued late into the evening, with laughter and joy filling the air. Clyde looked around at his neighbors, filled with hope for the future. He felt confident that the garden would thrive, just as their friendships would, rooted in love and nurtured with care. As the stars twinkled overhead, Clyde took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of belonging. He understood that no matter what lay ahead, they were all part of something greater, woven into the fabric of their community. The garden was not just a place for growth, it was a testament to the resilience of the bonds they had forged, promising a bright future together. As the summer sun warmed the garden, Clyde took a moment to reflect on the remarkable journey they had traveled together. The garden had blossomed not only with vibrant fruits and vegetables, but also with friendships, laughter, and a renewed sense of community. It was a living testament to the power of connection, and Clyde felt a deep sense of gratitude for everyone who had contributed to creating this sanctuary. One warm evening, as twilight settled over the garden, Clyde decided to gather his neighbors for an informal meeting. He wanted to discuss future plans and share ideas about how they could continue to grow together. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink as families began to arrive, their faces glowing with excitement. "Thank you all for coming," Clyde started, his heart swelling with pride at the sight of familiar faces. "Our garden has thrived because of each of you, and I believe we can do even more together. I'd like us to consider expanding our efforts into community outreach." A murmur of interest swept through the group. "What do you mean?" asked Sarah Hawkins, her eyes bright with curiosity. Clyde smiled, feeling the energy of the conversation spark. "I think we could create a program to share our knowledge with others, especially children and families in need. We could invite schools to visit, teach them about gardening, and give them seeds to take home. Imagine how many more lives we could touch by sharing what we've learned." Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd, and enthusiasm began to build. Clyde could see the excitement growing as they discussed the potential impact of their ideas. They brainstormed ways to engage local schools, community centers, and even host educational workshops to teach gardening skills, nutrition, and sustainability. As the evening progressed, the air filled with laughter and the sound of children playing nearby. Clyde watched as the community came together, united by a common purpose. It was a beautiful reminder of how far they had come, from isolated individuals to a vibrant network of support. As they wrapped up the meeting, Clyde felt a renewed sense of purpose. I believe this garden can be a beacon of hope for others, just as it has been for us. Let's take the love and care we've cultivated here and spread it beyond our community. With that, they made plans for the upcoming outreach program, each neighbor excited to contribute their skills and ideas. The garden would not only be a place for growing food, but also for growing connections, knowledge, and a sense of belonging for those who needed it most. As the sun set behind the horizon, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Clyde felt a profound sense of fulfillment wash over him. He realized that their journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. With every seed they planted, they were sowing the seeds of kindness, compassion, and hope, reaching out to inspire others in their community. In that moment, as the stars began to twinkle above, Clyde understood that this was the essence of community, the willingness to nurture one another, to share in both joys and challenges, and to grow together. It wasn't just about the garden. It was about the love and connection that would continue to blossom season after season.